I'm just making sure that I don't have any chocolate orange in my teeth, because I just found half a Terry's chocolate orange in the cupboard from the other week that I forgot was there, and it was possibly the best moment of my life. Hi, welcome. I am really glad that you said in the previous video that you didn't mind the cozy autumn light, because I'm filming in the dark today. It is the end of Friday, and today I finished my new book. I'm so excited. It is handed to my editor. It is gone. That was me saying done and gone at the same time. Though of course it will come back to me and there will be further discussions on the book. But for now, it's gone. It's no longer just sitting in my brain and, for want of a better word, festering in there. It has gone. So I thought what I would like to do this evening to celebrate, one, obviously eat that chocolate orange that I accidentally found, and also I would like to put up, bear with me, this little Christmas tree, which I have treated myself to. I know that it is November, and normally I would wait till December, but for goodness sake, this year we've got to take our happiness wherever we can find it. So the other year, last year, I had ordered one of these for my mum. It's from Bloom & Wild, not gifted, nothing like that. I bought this for myself. I decided I wanted to buy one for me this year because they're so cute. They're these little Christmas trees and they come through your letterbox, which is great. I was going to say for when you're not home, but aren't we all, most of us, home right now? Anyway, so I have this Christmas tree and I thought I would assemble this Christmas tree, and I asked you to send me questions only about books and reading. So not writing, not the other areas of my job, just reading. So I'm going to speak about books and we're going to assemble this Christmas tree. And also this video is sponsored by Skillshare, which I'll speak about later. That is the plan. Let's do it. I mean, grab yourself a Christmas tree and put it up at the same time if the mood takes you and you happen to have one to hand. Or just a cup of tea if you don't. Okay, let's cut into this. Oh, I forgot that I did this. Because with Bloom & Wild you can put a card in. If I ever order flowers for myself, I just attach a photo to a card. So basically I get a printout of a photograph that I would like, and then I can just pop it on the mantelpiece. I love it. Inside here it says, "This gift has been especially chosen for you, but the sender didn't leave their name. I wonder who sent this to me. I will never know." Okay, questions. An apt question. Someone says, how many books can you, do you, would you want to read at the same time? Okay, at the moment, I'm reading too many books at the same time. I would say however many books I'm reading at a given time is an accurate reflection of my state of mind. This is going to get messy. So I think, I'm looking over at my bedside table, I think I'm reading about 10 books at the moment, and that is too many for me, possibly too many for anyone though. Maybe not, maybe there are people out there who can actively read 10 books and have a great time. I normally like to have one non-fiction book on the go, one poetry, one short story collection, and one novel, and then possibly an audiobook too. So I suppose that is 5. So that is a lot, but I like them to be very different so that I can pick up whichever one I happen to be in the mood for. Even if they are thematically similar, because the forms are different, I can stay focused on each one. Yay! Someone asked me what the first book was that I ever fell in love with, and I don't really know. I loved Helen Oxenbury and Jill Murphy picture books, and Colin McNaughton, and various children's anthologies. I remember the first book I ever bought with my own money, which I think I've mentioned in a video before. It was one of the Scholastic book fairs, you know, that would come into schools, those big metal trolleys, and they would open up. I bought a copy of Badgers in the Basement by Lucy Daniels, and it was definitely a cover buy. And I know I have mentioned this in a video at some point, but I'll say it again. I adored the Animal Arc series. I read most of them. I think there were about 40. And then I remember writing to Lucy Daniels to thank her for her books. And then I got a letter back and was so thrilled, and then I learned later that Lucy Daniels is not a real person, and it was a series of ghostwriters who wrote those books, which at the time felt like a little bit of a betrayal, but now that I know more about the publishing industry, I think I've made my peace with it. When you put your Christmas lights on, do you have them on at the same time so that you can see what it's going to look like? Maybe that's a better way of doing it. Someone asked me what book I have reread the most, and I think it has to be books from my childhood, because I used to read books again and again. I would get the same books out of the library every week. I think I read My Best Fiend by Sheila Lavelle once a week for absolutely years. I also have definitely reread When Hitler Sold Pink Rabbit by Judith Kerr time and time again. In the more recent years, I have read His Dark Materials maybe once every 2 years, because they are just my warm, happy place, even though it's set in the cold north. Someone also asked me how I feel about the His Dark Materials adaptation for the BBC. I spoke about the first season in a favourites video, my last winter favourites video, which I'll link down below. I'm really enjoying it. I think whenever you watch a TV or film adaptation of a book you love, there is this weird gap. There's a loss. Not to be dramatic about it, but there is a small loss that you kind of have to reconcile before you can get on board and enjoy it. Or maybe you can do them both simultaneously, but it's a similar loss that you feel when you're writing a book. So before I start writing a book, I have an idea of this book in my head, and all throughout the writing process, I have this perfect version of this book that I can never quite articulate. Like when I birth a book, when I craft a book, I work hard at it, and I'm always really proud with the end result and what I've created, but it's never the same as the book that was in my head, because you can never fully recreate that, no matter how hard you try. It's like the gap in language, you know, when we call a table, that word is not the thing itself. There's that gap, there's that loss, and you just kind of have to come to terms with that. And it's similar when watching an adaptation of a book that you love. It's never going to be as good as the one in your head. Anyway, I really enjoyed the first series, and not just because the film was awful, so comparatively this TV series is so much better. I am just really, really enjoying it. I think maybe also I have more distance from the book than I did whenever the film came out, because I read the books for the first time when I was maybe 13, or at least I read the first one when I was 13. And I think maybe I'm not as precious about them as I once was, which isn't to say I don't still love them. I absolutely do, but I'm not quite as obsessed. And because I wrote my dissertation on His Dark Materials and Narnia and Peter Pan, there was a period where it kind of consumed all of my brain. So now I have that distance, and I can watch the TV show and appreciate it for what it is, and have a bit of fun with it. I think the characters are fantastic. I think Ruth Wilson is amazing. I really love the blend of The Subtle Knife and Northern Lights together. As I'm filming this, only one episode of the second season is out, but again, I enjoyed it. Lin-Manuel Miranda, I think I said in the first video last year when I talked about the initial series, I wasn't sure about him as Lee Scoresby, but he has 100% won me over. I didn't think he was old enough, but I am so wrong, because he's great. Look at these baubles that come with the tree. They're so sweet. Someone said, what do you miss most about being a bookseller? Well, I was a bookseller for a long time. I mean, I suppose in the grand scheme of life it wasn't that long, but it feels like an adequate amount of time. I was a bookseller for 10 years. I worked in a new independent bookshop in Edinburgh, and I worked at an antiquarian bookshop in London, so selling really old books. So both of those jobs were very different, and the thing that I love about them though was the same thing, and that was the children mostly. I mean, I think my favourite thing was the bookseller Warm Fuzzies, which is where you recommend a book to a person and they love it and they come back and they tell you. Basically just, you know, what I do on here, recommending books to people and hoping they're going to like them, and then them coming back for more recommendations, because I guess you've established that connection. And I just think that that's really, really wonderful. It was a privilege really as a bookseller. That one doesn't look good there. It's a privilege really to form those kind of relationships with customers you know, people would share parts of their life with me. Maybe they were going through a divorce, or a family member was ill or had passed away, and they would seek solace not only in books but in the bookshop itself, and being able to provide that solace. It was really, as I said, a privilege. That was my favourite part of the job. But I think in many respects I have that elsewhere in my life now. You know, we have this community here that we've built together, whereby I recommend books to you and we talk about books, and it does feel like an online bookshop space almost. When I was working with Cardiff University a couple of weeks ago on pro-social communities online and how the internet can be a positive space, I was giving a talk on that, and that was what I called my talk. I didn't really know what to call it, and I was like, I think I called it Disability and Building a Bookshop Online, or something like that. And by building a bookshop online, I don't mean selling books online, because let me turn this around. Of course, I'm advocating for buying books in bookshops wherever possible, using your libraries and all of that, but creating that community feeling online that a bookshop has. And that's so important to me, especially at the moment when I haven't been into a physical bookshop in 8 months, though I've still been purchasing from booksellers online. Having this, again, I'm going to use that word again, has felt like a privilege. I'm so happy to have this space, and I'm really grateful to you guys for being here. And look at me getting all mushy. I'm going to blame the Christmas tree. It's making me feel festive and emotional. So I have the bookshop community aspect of book selling on here, but I also have, in other areas of my life, my other favorite thing about being a bookseller, which was interacting with children, helping them learn to read sometimes, helping them pick out new favorite books, and talking to them about the characters that they love, sharing in that joy. And I obviously don't get to do that in bookshops anymore as a bookseller, but I do get to do it in bookshops and schools as an author, and I get to do that from a distance by writing books and sending them out into the world. So I feel like there isn't really anything that I miss about being a bookseller, because I don't feel like any of the things I loved about it are particularly lacking. I just find them now in different parts of my life. Oh, I think it looks very fancy. I'm going to pause here for a second and hand you over to Future Me, who's going to talk to you about Skillshare, because as I mentioned, they are very kindly sponsoring this video. So I will see you in 2 minutes. Oh hey, it's me in the future. I have a different haircut because I decided it was time to give myself a little bit of a trim, and then I remembered after I had done that, don't look too closely, that Skillshare probably have a video on how to cut your own hair, and indeed they do, and maybe I'll watch that next time because it's okay, but as I said, don't look too close. As I mentioned, this video is very kindly sponsored by Skillshare. I have been working with Skillshare for about 4 or 5 years now. I think that they're amazing. They are an online learning community, and they have classes on over 25,000 things. So basically whatever you want to learn, whatever you would like to get involved with, they probably have a class for that. If you would like recipes, they've got you covered. If you would like to learn how to take care of your houseplants, they've got you covered too. The holiday season is also creeping up on us, and I think something that I'm going to be thinking about more this year is creative gifts. Not necessarily just the presents, but maybe the cards as well. Maybe making some handmade Christmas cards. They have classes on that. They also have classes on creating Christmas decorations as well. Something to have fun with, really. If you would like to go a bit further than that, they also have a class called Yes, You Can Draw, Reconnect with Your Creative Self by Amandine Thomas, and she's really getting you to stop doubting yourself, which I really appreciate. There are classes that are similar to that for writing as well, if writing is more your thing than drawing. For those of you who are already confident at drawing and are thinking about taking that one step further, there are classes for that too, such as Brooke Glaser's class, Make a Living as an Artist. So Skillshare has lots of fun activities to do in your spare time. They're short, you can fit them in whenever you happen to have the time, but they also have classes on applying those creative things to your work life as well, if that's something that you happen to be interested in. It's a really affordable learning platform. Premium membership works out at about $10 a month, but they have given me a link which is at the top of the description box down below, and the first 1,000 people to click on that will get a free trial of their premium membership. I encourage you to click on it and go and have a look, because they have a class for everybody imaginable. Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and let's go back to past me. Someone said, how do you take notes on what you read? I have a pen, I underline things, I scribble in the margins. I don't keep a separate notebook, I just write on the text itself, and I have a couple of videos on how to annotate texts, how I annotate texts, which may be of interest, which I'll link in the description box down below. Someone said, do you have a favorite Virginia Woolf book? If I'm pausing this long, the answer is probably no, but it has been a while since I read her books, and I read most of them in very quick succession because I took a Virginia Woolf course at uni, so I read all of her books in one term. The only book of hers that I haven't read is the biography that she did of a dog. I have read everything else. I think maybe The Waves was my favorite, or Between the Acts, but I also love her essays as well. Someone said, what is a must-read historical fiction? The Crimson Petal and the White is still my favourite historical fiction, and I'm afraid I don't have a more exciting answer than that. It just is my favourite, and it is a play on Jane Eyre in many different ways, and also a bit of an homage to Dickens, and the characters are superb, and if you haven't read it, you definitely should. Do you usually read in long stretches or in short bursts? How do you track your reading? And what time of day do you read the most? Has COVID changed that? I read the most at the moment in the mornings, I think. I was getting up with Mr. M really early to go for 5 a.m. walks at the start of lockdown back in March. And we did that for quite a while, but then we stopped doing it because it was helpful to begin with, but then after a while it just made every day feel the same, and the days were already feeling like that, so we stopped doing it. And now I really love reading in the morning, and it's what I used to do pre-COVID as well, so I think that in itself is quite comforting. Mr. M is not a morning person and I am, so I often wake up at 5:30, 6, and I'll read for an hour or so in bed before I get up and start work. And if I can do that without looking at my phone much, I'm not going to say at all because I do, but if I can put my phone in the other room, you know, I might look at it first thing in the morning, then I'll go make myself a cup of tea and leave my phone in the kitchen, come back to bed, read for an hour. It is a very good way to start the day. Do I track my reading? I don't. I do have a Goodreads account, and I also have, what is the other one called? Oh my God, I've completely forgotten what it's called. I'll put it on the screen. I have an account over there as well, and I track my reading there, but I don't put my ratings there or any reviews. It's just to remind myself of what I have read. And what was the other question? Do I read in long stretches or short bursts? It tends to be short bursts of maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. In the morning, as I said, I try to read longer. And if I'm reading a book that I can't get away from in a good way, not because it's chasing me around the flat, but because I love it and it's a page turner. The last one that I read which was like that was House of Correction by NICCI French, which is the answer to another question. Someone said, what should I read after finishing Free Decline? Read House of Correction. Then I will read it for hours at a time, but that doesn't tend to happen anymore. Also, I feel I don't have the concentration that I used to have. I am more easily distracted now. I think we all are because of social media and the internet, and that's not me hating on the internet because I love it. I just think, especially at the moment with everything that's going on in the world, our brain is in so many different places all the time that I do find it hard to concentrate sometimes, which is also another question, I think, here. Yes, someone said, how do you concentrate on reading when there's so much going on in the world? I mean, if you have answers, please send them to me because I struggle with that too. But I do try and make a conscious effort to leave my phone in another room where possible. And I also use reading room ASMRs, which is a really good way to set yourself an allotted amount of time to read. I'll link some of my favorites in the description box down below. I'm not into ASMR videos where people eat or tap on things, but I like the reading ones, the ones that are set in libraries or are focused on the weather. It's just good nothing noise whilst being calming in the background. And as I said, it gives you an allotted amount of time to read. If a video is 20 minutes long, you know you can sit down and read for 20 minutes, and you know the 20 minutes aren't up if the video is still going. I've just discovered more decorations for this tree. This tree is going to be laden with decorations. Oh look, it's not baubles, it's a garland. How cute. With a clip-on staff at the top, which I don't think you're going to be able to see. So I will do a cutaway in a bit so that you can see the top. Somebody asked me when I first discovered Persephone books and how many of their books I have read. I'm not sure when I first discovered Persephone. If you're not aware of what Persephone is, it is a publishing company based in Bloomsbury, and they publish out of print books mainly written by women. They have uniform grey covers apart from some of their editions where they have paintings. I have a stack of them on my mantelpiece and they're super cozy. I have read maybe 5 or 6, I think. They're one of the bookshops that I miss visiting the most. It seems mean to pick favourites, actually. I'm often asked what my favourite bookshops in London are, and I would say Persephone. And in fact, I always recommend, if you want to do a bookshop crawl in non-COVID times, then I would recommend starting at King's Cross. If it's opening hours, you can visit Word on the Water, which is a bookshop on a boat that is near King's Cross. You could then visit the British Library bookshop, the Welcome bookshop. You could then walk down to Scoob Books, which is an amazing secondhand bookshop, Persephone Books, the London Review Bookshop, and Gaze the Word. I nearly missed out Gaze the Word, one of my absolute favourites. And then go down to Charing Cross, go to Foyles, obviously. Then you've got Forbidden Planet and all of the bookshops on Charing Cross Road and Cecil Court. So I think that's about, 15 bookshops in total. And I often do that bookshop crawl and I miss doing it. So Persephone Books I probably discovered when I moved to London, which was in 2010, and I learned more about them when I wrote the Bookshop book, which is my book about bookshops all around the world, and I interviewed the owner, Nicola, who was a gem. And yeah, it's just such a cozy place. So it's a publishing company, but they have a bookshop in Bloomsbury and they stock everything that they have published. And because those are the only books that they sell, everybody who works there knows those books inside out, so they can give you the most incredible recommendations. I'm often asked where I would recommend starting with Persephone books, and I think my favourite is Doreen by Barbara Noble, which is about a young girl who's evacuated during the Second World War. But take a look at their catalogue online, you will not regret it. Following on from that, someone said, what is your favourite autumn and winter reads? So I would recommend Persephone books because I think they're amazing for this time of year. For winter, I am going to be gravitating towards the British Library crime classics. Last year I read the Santa Claus mystery and loved it. So if you're looking for a mystery set at Christmas, definitely check that one out. For my individual book recommendations, I would of course recommend Autumn and Winter by Ali Smith. My favourite autumnal book is probably English Animals by Laura Kay. I've recorded a podcast with Laura. I'll link that up here and down below. It is set in an old English manor and it is a queer, creepy, fantastic book. For winter, probably His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. Another question was, do you DNF books? Absolutely, life is too short. Someone says, I'm dipping my toe into poetry for the first time. I'm in need of serious direction. I have a video called Reading Poetry, Where to Start, which I'll link down below. I also have a series called Dissect a Poem with Jen, which you may find helpful. Off the top of my head, some collections I would recommend: The Perseverance by Raymond Antrobus, Not Here by Human Wynn, If They Come For Us by Fatima Asghar. I'd recommend anthologies actually too, because that's a great way to read a whole array of different poets and find out ones you like. Then you can go and check out their collections. So I particularly recommend the Forward Prize Poetry Anthologies, plus the Journal's Poetry London and the Rialto. Links in the description box. This was a strange question. Someone said, how do you stay away from trendy books? And I don't think that I do. It's not something that I actively think about. I know the feeling of maybe being put off by a book because there's a lot of hype surrounding it. And I did a video last year where I specifically read books that had been hyped up so much. So I read The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I read the sequel to The Book of Dust, and I'll link that vlog down below if you're interested. I do think hype surrounding a book can infiltrate into your reading experience, but loads of different things are going to infiltrate into your reading experience. Like all the experiences you've had as a person are going to decide whether or not you enjoy the book you're reading, plus the time and place that you happen to be reading it in. There are so many different factors. But I don't not read books because other people are reading them, for instance. I am interested in seeking out small presses and books that haven't been talked about as much. And I think that's because I'm curious more than anything else. And I am particularly interested in what small presses are doing because they tend to publish really innovative stuff, and that can be both good and bad. But it doesn't stop me reading more popular books as well. That's just not something that I care about. Final few questions. Someone said, do you listen to audiobooks sped up? I do not. I listen to them on one speed, and I tend to listen to them when I'm cooking dinner. How do you prep to review a book? I thought this was interesting. There are a few ways that I review books. So I review books on here in wrap-ups. Occasionally I'll do in-depth reviews of one specific book. For my wrap-ups, I don't make any notes apart from the notes that I've maybe made in a text, which I might refer back to. I might flip through a book when I'm talking about it. For the in-depth book reviews where I'll talk about one book for 20 minutes, I do make notes just to make sure that I don't lose my train of thought, which I want to do. For my other reviews, I review on the radio, and I often make bullet points for myself of things that I would like to mention on air. And for reviewing in written format for magazines, I will normally sit down in front of a blank page and I will type up the few lines in the book that I have underlined. So anything that I thought was particularly noteworthy, I will put that all in a Word document, and then I will copy and paste those quotes and move them around and work out the themes that I want to talk about and how I want to form a narrative surrounding the parts of the book that I enjoyed the most and thought were the most interesting. And the final question is, what is the last book that you bought? The last book that I bought is this one here, which is called Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. And this is one of my most anticipated books of the year, and this excites me the most. I think the quote at the top, it says, "I have not been this profoundly unnerved since Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go," and that's by Carmen Maria Machado. And Never Let Me Go is one of my favorite books ever. This is about a couple called Amanda and Clay. They have left New York City. They have left their children. They have teenage children. They've gone away to have a break on their own, and they go to this remote holiday home, and they're expecting this peaceful holiday, and then a couple knock at the door, and the couple are older, they claim to own the home, and they have arrived there in a panic. These strangers say that a sudden power outage has swept the city, and with nowhere else to turn, they have come to their country house in search of shelter. But with the TV and internet down and no phone service, the facts are unknowable. Should Amanda and Clay trust this couple, and vice versa? I just think that that sounds amazing. So this is definitely one that I will be reading in the coming weeks. So those are all the questions that I'm going to answer for now. I think I'm going to pop this little Christmas tree here. Isn't it cute? I know that it is very heavy with Christmas cheer, slightly all over the place, lopsided. I think that's why I like it so much, because it's a bit over the top. I am going to pop this on the mantelpiece up here. I will do a cutaway so that you can see it. Thank you for joining me today while I talk about books and decorate this Christmas tree. I would love to know how you are in a comment down below. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Again, if you would like to check them out, you can click the link at the top of the description box. I hope you have a great week, and I will speak to you all very soon. Lots of love. Bye.